There's a reason you keep avoiding the one thing you actually want to do. And it's not laziness. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what it is and the 10-minute fix that breaks it. It's 6:14 a.m. Daniel's alarm goes off before the sun does. He doesn't hit snooze. He gets up. There's a spare room in his apartment. Boxes of art supplies he bought 8 months ago are still sealed. An easel leans against the wall, still wrapped in plastic. He walks past it, makes coffee, checks his phone. 41 unread notifications. None of them urgent. All of them somehow more interesting than the room down the hall. By the time he looks up, it's 7:50. He has to leave for work. The easel is still wrapped in plastic. It has been for 8 months. Maybe you have a room like that too. Not a literal one. A room in your life you keep walking past. There's always one thing. The painting you haven't started. The certification you haven't finished. The relationship conversation you keep postponing. The move you keep almost making. You're not confused about what it is. That's the strange part. If you genuinely didn't know what you wanted, this would make sense. But you know. You've known for months, maybe years. And knowing without doing starts to feel like its own kind of punishment. So you look for a reason. I'm just not disciplined. I work better under pressure. I'll get to it when things calm down. But what if the story isn't about discipline at all? Here's something uncomfortable. Sometimes not starting is protecting you from something. If Daniel never opens that easel, he never has to find out if his paintings are actually any good. If he never shows anyone his work, no one can tell him it's not what he hoped. If he never finishes a single piece, he gets to keep believing he could be an artist without ever risking the proof. Unfinished things are strange like that. They stay full of potential precisely because they're unfinished. The moment you complete something and put it into the world, it becomes real. And real things can be judged. Real things can fail. So some part of you keeps the box sealed. Not because you're lazy. Because sealed boxes can't disappoint you. But here's the part almost no one admits. It's not just failure you're afraid of. There's something even scarier hiding underneath it, and it might be the real reason you haven't moved in years. Sometimes you're afraid of what happens if it works. If Daniel actually finishes a painting he's proud of, he has to ask himself why he waited 8 months. If he actually gets good at this, people will expect more from him. If he takes it seriously, he can't call it just a hobby anymore. Success has its own weight. It asks something of you going forward. And staying in the unfinished, maybe someday, version of yourself feels safer than carrying that weight. So you tell yourself, I'm too tired right now. I'll start when I have more time. I need to learn more before I actually try. Sometimes that's true. Often it's a very well-dressed excuse. Here's what Daniel eventually notices. He's not incapable of focus. He can watch 3 episodes in a row without blinking. He can scroll for an hour without meaning to. He can spend a whole evening reorganizing a spreadsheet that didn't need reorganizing. So it's not that he lacks the ability to sit still and concentrate. It's that the moment he steps toward the easel, something in him tightens. Uncertainty shows up. A quiet voice says, "What if this is bad?" And almost instantly, his hand reaches for the phone instead. Not because the phone is so compelling. Because it's easy and the room down the hall is not. That's the actual trap. You're not avoiding the task. You're avoiding the feeling that shows up the second you begin it. Here's the good news nobody tells you. Fixing this doesn't take a new routine, a new personality, or waiting until you feel ready. It takes one specific move, and it's smaller than you think. You don't need a new personality by tomorrow morning. You don't need to unwrap the entire easel buy new supplies, and finish a masterpiece in one sitting. You need something much smaller. Open the box. Take one brush out. Sit in the room for 10 minutes, even if you don't paint anything. Write one sentence of the book. Send one message you've been avoiding. Put on the shoes and walk to the end of the block. Do the smallest version of the thing. Then, if you want, stop. The point isn't to finish everything tonight. The point is to prove to yourself that you can move, even without motivation, even without certainty, even while afraid. Because every time you take that small action, you rewrite a tiny piece of the story you've been telling yourself. Maybe you've spent a long time calling yourself lazy. Maybe you've watched other people move forward while your room stayed sealed. Maybe part of you has quietly decided that this is just who you are. It isn't. You don't need to hate yourself into changing. You need to understand why you've been stuck and then choose to move anyway. Fear can explain why you stopped. Your past can explain why it's been hard. But neither one gets to decide what happens next. So tonight, don't promise yourself a whole new life. Just open the box. 10 minutes. One small uncomfortable action. One quiet proof that says, I'm still in this. That's what it means to face your life. Not pretending you're fearless. Not waiting for the perfect moment. Just looking at things as they actually are and moving anyway. Face your life.